name's Elaine, and I'd like to talk to you about some of the things that perhaps you can do as a midwife to help us mums through the mental aspects of pregnancy and birth. There's so much focus on the physical aspects that quite often this can be overlooked. Yet for someone like me who suffered very badly with postnatal depression after her baby was born, I hope from my experience I can share with you some of the things that you can help make a positive difference to other mums out there. Initially, remember to each mum, it's a unique experience being pregnant. Yes, it may be frightening as well for them, but nonetheless very, very special. Please remember that for us it may be the only time that we are pregnant, and to help us appreciate how unique it is and what an amazing experience it can be. Share our happiness, share our excitement, and help to reassure us and conquer our fears as well. Remember that even if we've read all the books like I had, that quite often we know nothing. We don't really know what to expect. And as each birth, each pregnancy is different and unique, that quite often we really feel that we don't know so much. It's much better to be told something 4 times than not know at all. And remember to reassure us that no question is silly. We can't be expected to have all the answers. And quite often, the smallest of things that can worry us, if you can actually give us some knowledge and information and guidance on, you can really, really help to reduce our anxieties and our worries. When you actually have the booking in session, please encourage mums to actually tell you if they've had any mental health history problems before or if it's in the family, because the risk factor is such that if they have pre-existing or previous mental health problems, that they are more likely to go on and have postnatal depression. Antenatal depression, of course, also exists as well, and the more information that you can have from the mum, the better. If a mum does actually say that she has had previous history of a mental health problem, do you know what to do about that? Do you know who to refer her to? Do you know what is the network? Who are the people that perhaps you could then refer her on to? Do you know what care package could be offered to help prevent any mental health issues actually occurring? What support is there? Do you know what signs and symptoms to look out for in both antenatal and postnatal depression? Do you know what the risk factors are? I strongly suggest that you find out so that you can be informed to then offer the appropriate support and information onto those mums and their families as well. Prevention is definitely the best course of action. Whenever you're speaking to mothers and their partners, remember to use positive and supportive language. It's very difficult for our brain to focus if we actually say don't on something. For example, if I say to you, don't think about an elephant playing football, what do you think of? So actually when you're attempting to reassure a lady, if you say don't panic, think about it. It's much better to use words like remember, and again reassure that everything will be well and that they are doing their best. Remember to be sensitive as well to the partner and the rest of the family. They probably will equally be not knowing what's going on. Involve them, help them, reassure them and inform them. They can actually be instrumental as well if you built up a rapport with them to actually tell you and identify symptoms that maybe the mum in the early weeks and days isn't actually being herself. Perhaps she's displaying some really bizarre behaviours, in which case they need to know who can they turn to, what can be done about it, and what behaviours aren't really normal after a new baby comes. Quite often the partners as well, the change for them can be absolutely colossal and maybe they're overwhelmed. Also look out for the partner's health and see if they need actual more help and support to their new role as dad. The birth that I had with my son certainly wasn't what I planned or expected. It was actually very traumatic, and yet nobody really spoke to me about it afterwards. In retrospect, I really wish they had. It might be that the mum, after the birth, wants to talk about what had happened. I know I did, and nobody really gave me that opportunity. It wasn't that I wanted to complain, it was that I simply wanted to understand what had happened. Why did I have a postpartum hemorrhage? Why did I have a retained placenta? These were just expressions. I didn't know what they meant until I actually heard about them at a midwifery conference years later. Please remember to explain to us and inform us and empower us to make positive choices for ourselves. Always use the name that she wants to be called by. It's important for her to remember that even though she now is somebody's mother, that she's still a person in her own right as well. One technique that you might find that can help both you and others, if you're ever feeling quite agitated about something, is a method that was passed on to me. I'd like you to visualise a candle. It can be a big candle, small candle, doesn't matter, as long as you have a candle in your mind's eye. I'd now like you to light that candle, so you have a single flame in front of you. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to breathe in. When you exhale, I'd like you to control that flow of breath so that it's not too fast and blows out your flame. It's not too gentle that the flame doesn't move. I'd like you to exhale and have that flow just so your flame flickers. Okay, have you got your candle? Have you got your flame? Breathe in. And as you exhale, flicker that flame. Let's do that one again. I'd like you to breathe in. Exhale and flicker your flame. Now if you repeat that a few times, you will find that your stress levels, your anxiety will actually reduce. So the next time you're having a flap, think candle. An expression that we often use as Brits is, I'm fine. How often do we say that in the course of a day? You meet somebody, you shake hands, oh, how are you doing? And we generally say, I'm fine. Usually, the person who's asked that question doesn't really want to know the ins and outs if you've got an ingrowing toenail or any other ailment, or really how life is for you at that particular moment in time. It's a passing expression that we just use and it just rolls off our tongue. However, when we're actually in a health professional role and you ask someone the question, how are you? You're actually asking it because you want to know. One mum who was actually suffering from postnatal depression said to me, you know what FINE stands for, Elaine, don't you? No, I said. Well, she said, it actually stands for I'm fed up, insecure, neurotic and emotional. So think on. Next time you ask the question of somebody, how are you? And they glibly say, oh, I'm fine. Yet you instinctively think, no, you're not. What's actually the worst that can happen if you actually stop, look them in the eye, maybe gently place your hand on theirs and say, are you really? That might be all it really takes to give someone permission to actually drop that facade, to drop that pretense that they are really fine and get beyond the mask that they're putting up. Because once you establish that they're not really fine, then you actually can make a big difference and help them to recover and be a lot happier in their lives. I think when it comes down to maternal mental health as well, I certainly know I felt very guilty. I felt very ashamed of suffering from postnatal depression. We all have to work together to reduce the stigma around it, to be far more aware that mental health and mental illness can be prevented. They certainly can be helped to get through in easier ways. And if we all work together to do that, then motherhood will actually be far happier, far more pleasurable for many people. So please do what you can to learn about maternal mental health and to minimise the risks, minimise what can be a dramatic negative effect on families, and help them to be the happy families that they deserve to be.